A very good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world joining me on this short video in life after death. Just want to start off by saying hi, how are you? How are you doing? And if you're okay, and if you're not okay, that's okay. But if you're not okay, make sure that you take some action and reach out to someone and ask for help, because that's okay. But I just thought I'd like to share two things with you. And the first one is that your grief has no deadline. Wherever you are in the grief cycle at the minute, and it could be very recent, it could be maybe a year, 18 months, or it could be 20 odd years ago. It doesn't matter where you are in the grief cycle, it never ends, and that's the first thing. The grief cycle never ends, and there's no deadline for grief. So it's not like you've got to be over it in a year, or you've got to be over it in 6 months or 18 months. There's no deadline. So for you, it's what's right for you. But the first year for sure is full of firsts. So first birthday without the person, the first anniversary without that person, the first Christmas without that person, whatever you want to say, but it's all the firsts. This is the first time. And that can prove to be challenging. But also to point out that can be challenging 20 years later as well. It can be challenging if you have a life event, a birth, a marriage, something like that, and the person that you've lost isn't there to share it. The grief can hit you like a freight train. So I guess it's to say that grief never ends. It just is that you deal with it differently. The second thing to say today on this little video is that when someone dies, it's like the pause on the world. The pause button is hit on the world, your world, and everything stops. And you look out of the eyes that you look out of every day and you think, wow, why is the world still revolving and going on without me? Do they not know what's happened to me? And then you possibly get into the why me? Why has this happened to me? Well, as I've said to you many times before, if you go out and try and find someone who death and grief hasn't hit, it's like looking for a grain of sand. Everybody has suffered the loss of somebody. And even grief can be something that's present after the end of a relationship or the breakup of a relationship. So grief doesn't have to be life after death. It can be and take many forms. So in terms of that fact, is to know that it's just a case of where are you in your grief cycle for a particular person, because you could be in a grief cycle for maybe, 4 or 5 different people in your lifetime. Some of them you may be in a 20-year cycle, and some you might be in a 5-minute cycle, but wherever you are in a cycle. And when you look out and say, why me? I always remember a lady I used to work with, and she used to say, well, why not you? And I thought it was a bit harsh at the time, but something happens, something loss, death happens to everybody at some point. Sometimes you get a run of it and then you get a bit of a break from it. But wherever you are in your grief cycle, I want you to think about your mental health. And your mental health can take a real nosedive when you lose someone, and especially in those early days when you're faced with such an overwhelm of things to do and take in and absorb and organise, and you just feel like you're running all the time. So I want you to think about structure. And I think in terms of your mental health, and particularly when you're in the very raw stages of grief and the grief cycle, is to think about structure. I know I flippantly threw out when things get tough, get up, show up and dress up. Or maybe it's the other way around, but anyway, you know what I mean. And in terms of whenever someone passes, And perhaps you take some time off work. You maybe are in a position where you can take a few months off work. Everybody's different. Personally, I think to get back to work and get your mind focused on other things is healthy, but it's not for everyone. So again, as in any grief situation, you do what's best for you. But please, please, please have some structure. If you will, get a pen and a piece of paper and give yourself a deadline to get out of bed. Not too late, maybe not too early either, but to get up. Get out of bed and get moving. Maybe shower, get in the shower. The sort of water hitting you can give you a vibration and can up your energy. So in terms of what you do thereafter, in the immediate aftermath of someone passing, there's a lot of things to do and there's a lot of jobs to be done. But depending on what your faith is, but after the funeral, whatever, however long that is when the dust sort of settles and you start to think, gosh, what's just happened? But don't pull the covers over your head and just stay in bed all day. Just give yourself tasks, small tasks. It might be to go for a walk for 10 minutes. Remember, if you're out walking for 10 minutes, it's 10 minutes back. But just get a pen and a piece of paper and do out a schedule for your day. Now, those people think that's a wee bit OCD, but it is something for you to focus on. It's something to keep you focused and structured. That's the key. Where if you've nothing to fill your mind other than your thoughts, it can become quite busy in there and it can lead you to feeling, because remember, what you're thinking equates to a feeling eventually. And if you're feeling not too positive or not too, sort of clever, then notice what you're thinking and change your thoughts. So I'd like to leave you with the two things from today is your grief doesn't have a deadline, and that's okay. And secondly, structure. Structure is the key to keeping your mind focused and to try and keep your mind and your attitude healthy. So if you're struggling, hopefully this helps. If you know of somebody who is struggling, by all means, share this with them. And if you've got any comments, any questions, pop them in the comments below this video, or if you want to send me a private message if you don't want to share your thoughts publicly. So keep well, look after yourself, and remember, you're amazing. Bye.